In the 5-part comic miniseries, Batter Blood, Deadpool creator Rob Liefeld returns to his most famous character and throws him into a crazy adventure that spans the primitive savage lands, all the way to the depths of outer space. With a cast that features the likes of Cable, Wolverine, Spider-Man, and a certain near-copyright infringing space weapon. In issue 3, the mutant merc with a mouth is desperately trying to survive battles inside of a reality-warping mindscape simulation. In a confrontation with the alien Shi'ar warriors, he is suddenly teleported to a location where he meets some very familiar faces that should, technically, be dead. But
enough! Starbolt, eradicate this interloper.
As you command, Praetor.
Oh! That's hot! Healing factor or not, this one's gonna hurt. Maybe worse. Well, at least the obituary will be awesome. Incinerated in the far reaches of space after mouthing off to an entire legion of... Seriously? Again?
Nice work, Starpool.
Oh. What?
You beamed him right to us.
Yes? Cosmic awareness at its best.
Yeah, dude. Don't call it that.
Think it's really him, boss? I mean, it looks like him. What do you think, Deadpool? Is he the real deal, Pool?
Good enough for me.
The Deadpool core? But it can't be.
Hey, Dad.
I'm not your dad, kiddo. Never was, and I'm sorry, but... aren't you guys supposed to be, like, dead?
The deadest. It's in the name after all. It's Killville. Nothing's off limit. Not the past, present, or future. It makes what-ifs, whatevers. And we're kinda sick of it.
We've been fighting it from the outside and getting nowhere. But somebody let you in. You've got a chance to crack it in half. Here, you'll need this.
Aw, you shouldn't have. What is it?
You don't already know?
I mean, I know what it looks like. And I've wished for one since I was 6 years old. But, oh, I'm getting that feeling again. Like I'm slipping away.
May the... Wait. Same boss. I think I can legally say, may the be with you.
Hope you guys got a kick of that little comic bite. To be honest, the plot of Batter Blood didn't quite reel me into its premise. It felt like the story concept that plays upon a reality simulation idea was exploited to simply string together a bunch of cool-looking things. Deadpool in the comics is one of those characters that I feel works better as part of an ensemble, either as a guest character in another title, or having a character that have opposite morals or motives to his own, guest star in one of his stories. I can only read so many solo Deadpool stories before the meta humor gets tedious. In contrast, the first 2 Deadpool films brought a surprising amount of earnestness to the character that I kind of feel is missing in the comics. Deadpool and Wolverine, for better or worse, seem to be in the same vein as Batter Blood, in the sense that it didn't really have a sophisticated plot or plausible character arcs, but relied on sensationalized action, comedy, cameos, and a kaleidoscope of just cool stuff. Admittedly, what compelled me to revisit this miniseries was the combination of the hype around the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, the recent retirement of Deadpool co-creator Rob Liefeld, and binge listening to chunks of Rob's podcast, Robservations. Hearing him wax poetic about his life in comics, made me want to revisit one of the last projects that Rob completed before calling in his retirement from comics, and seeing the likes of Wolverine and the Deadpool Corps in an adventure that foreshadows a similar cameo fest that would be the box office juggernaut that was Deadpool and Wolverine, makes me wonder if Rob tears up looking at sketches of his original creations. It must be surreal for him to see the things he daydreamed with pencil and paper become a cultural phenomenon. But with that said, I think Batter Blood is a comic that will probably only have lasting appeal to readers that don't mind stylistic aesthetics over narrative substance, or fans that just read anything with Deadpool in it. But for me, all that stuck with me on my first time read of Batter Blood was that Deadpool got a, probably IP-infringing lightsaber-esque weapon. Maybe we'll just call it a space katana to avoid Deadpool getting a lawsuit from beyond the fourth wall. But anyway, on my second read of Batter Blood, I was looking into it more as a visual reference to get context on some of the things that Rob chimes about on his podcast. I generally read comics as entertainment, but sometimes I like observing creative processes and sentiments of different artists and try to investigate the methods to their madness. Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld's Heroes Reborn stint with Marvel were kind of my indoctrination to Marvel, so I have a soft spot for their work, good or bad. But as a fan, I have to confess, with sincere respect to the man, I find Rob's podcast to be more engaging than the comics of his that I've read.
The writing and the scripting part of the book is the most laborious to me, because when I'm done with the art, I just want to be done. And then slowing it down and having to go back over it and put everything into descriptive captions, thoughts, speech, dialogue. I'm fully capable of doing it. I think I do it well. I don't enjoy it. It's not the part of the...
When the great Stan Lee was still alive, one of the things I wish that he would have done was start a podcast and just wax poetic about his experiences and his creative philosophy. Sadly, the chance of such a thing will never be. However, Rob's podcast is the next best thing that I've come across to something that I imagined a Stan Lee podcast might have been. He definitely gives a kind of fun, uncle vibe in his endless yarns of comic book nostalgia and encyclopedic knowledge of artists, notable works, events, and his own creative mindset and methods. After listening to a chunk of his podcast and rereading Batter Blood, it's apparent that Rob is as much a fanboy as he is a creator, coming up with the kinds of preposterous things that a fan might propose when asked the question, "So, what would you do if Marvel asked you to make something?" And they start dropping all sorts of, "Wouldn't it be cool if he..." Insert cool thing. Well, that's what Batter Blood comes across to me as. A veteran creator who still has the whimsy of a child whose imagination is getting carried away in the pages of what-if possibilities, and is unapologetic for his enthusiasm. He's a fan of all sorts of pop culture, so for better or worse, his insert cool thing mentality just seems to be a part of his creative soul. Rob, despite some of the controversy surrounding him, has undoubtedly cemented his place in comic history. But listening to him on Robservations, he gives the impression of being an everyman who's very grateful for his standing. After several decades in the comic game, the Deadpool co-creator and one of the key figures in the movement towards creator-owned properties has retired from filling pages of panels. But through his podcast, I think Rob is still being the fan who is still trying to insert cool thing into the culture of comic fandom. Listen to the man himself, so you can appreciate what goes on beyond the fourth wall.
The storytelling that I love. There are very few comic books that I hold in high regard based on the turn of a phrase or a specific line of dialogue. And that's going to separate me from so many of you. But what I do remember is the plotting and is the impact of the story, what we call the page turns, the cliffhangers, the introductions, the tension, the subplots. I've mentioned my love for the X-Men and Daredevil many times. Those are two perfect examples of what I'm talking about. I can't tell you exactly what is said between Daredevil and Elektra in so many of their interactions, whether they were being romantic together in Matt Murdock's apartment or in Elektra's penthouse suite, or whether they were tag teaming, jumping across the city, Hell's Kitchen, trying to catch whatever ninja that was on the loose, or their banter with Bullseye as he encountered both of them. I just remember the images, the motion, the movement, and the unfolding of the storytelling.
I smell what you're stepping in, Sensei. Your little cinematic universe is about to change forever. I'm the Messiah. I am Star Wars. Jesus.
you.